Hey, welcome ladies and gentlemen to another tutorial. In here we're going to learn how to create disappearing posts or messages. The principle can be applied to messages as well in PHP. So of course our simple application here won't be winning any beauty contests because the point is to learn the PHP side of things and not the actual visuals. Alright, so in here I have just a page where I can create a post by posting right here. And each post only lasts 1 minute and then it disappears. So you can extend that time to 24 hours, 1 hour, 1 week, 1 month. It's entirely up to you how you want to do things. Okay, so let's give an example. Let's say if I have a post and I'm going to call this one my post and say this is my post over here, and let's do a save. So you see my post lands here with an ID of 6 right there. So if we add another one here, this post will disappear in 1 minute. So we can wait a minute here by typing another post so that we see if the other one will disappear or remain. So say my second post. Let me just copy some text from a website, Lorem Ipsum, where we copy dummy text and paste it there. At least this looks more like a post now. And if I hit the save button, now we have 2 posts over here, number 7 and number 6. But at some point, number 6 will disappear as I keep refreshing the page. So let me add a third post here. I'm going to say a third post while we're waiting for the number 6 to disappear. And I will grab some different text over here, copy that and paste, and let's hit the save button. Now if you noticed already, number 6 is gone. Yeah, there's 8 and 7, so that one is already gone in a minute. We can check even our table where these posts are saved, and there's only 2. As you can see, ID number 6 has been deleted. So this is what we're going to learn how to create, right? Alright, so this is not a beginner's tutorial in PHP. You should already know some basics of PHP. If you want a beginner tutorial, I have a link in the description. Watch that, learn PHP, then you can come to this post right here. So to get started, I have my text editor here and I've loaded a folder I've just dragged and dropped this folder into my text editor, and the folder is inside the XAMPP folder that is inside C. Where is this? That's inside C. Let me actually just open that so you can see. Open folder. So the folder is inside C XAMPP htdocs, and then I've created a folder called time posts in there, and this is where I'll put my index.php file. And then I've gone ahead in my browser and loaded localhost/time posts because that's the folder that I'm in. And of course, make sure that Apache and MySQL are both running by clicking start on each one of these through your XAMPP control panel. Okay, so once we have this, let's create our index.php file. So let's say new file in here and save. So it's gonna be index.php and save. And then let's put some HTML, the base HTML template. I'm gonna call this one time posts and hit that save button. So at least now when I refresh, I have a page and the title says time posts there. And of course we're going to need a database. So I'm going to go to phpMyAdmin, so that's localhost/phpMyAdmin, and create a new database. I'm going to call it time post _db. I'll put S there, time posts. Now you can call the database anything, just don't use any spaces there. And within the database, I want to create a posts table. So I'm going to say posts there. Number of columns, let's leave it at the default. And then within posts here, we'll have an ID because we need the post to have an ID of some kind. And here we're gonna put the post title. So I just want to limit this to the absolute necessities here. So the post itself, the post text, and then obviously the date. Okay, so we're gonna put date. Now you can put an actual date and then put maybe a timestamp as well, or an int version of this. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna leave date as int right there. And let's see here, title. So this one will be int as well. Let's make sure it's auto increment so it can increment by itself, and then it's the primary key. The title is variable character because we are putting some characters in there. Let's put a limit of 100. Let's put varchar here as well. Now the post can be anything. Let's put text actually. Okay, so we allow empty post here by selecting no. We don't want an empty title. The date, let's add a default value here as 0 since it's an integer. Now the reason I'm using int, because on date I could use date time. Now you can actually have two columns where you have one with date time and the other one you have the date int version like this, but I'm just going to use this int version for now because I can convert between the two without a problem. Now the reason I'm using an integer is because I want to easily query these without having to deal with date functions. So you can query by date using date functions, that's fine. But I find this is a much easier way to save the date as an integer because I can even query using number of seconds and number of minutes and so on. It just makes things easier than having actual date or a date time. So let's just save that. All right, so we have a posts table here, which is nice. You can put some indices here if you're going to be searching posts by title, but we will be searching by this date, so let's add an index there. If you're going to be searching by title, of course you will add an index there as well. Alright, now if we browse on this, we will see that it's empty, so it's just a title, a post, and a date. Okay, great. So far so good, right? Now let's put some stuff here we can actually see. So to start with, I'm just going to add, so all this is just basic HTML. I'm going to say my posts right there. I want to hold all of this inside another container so that it's encased in there. Now I could use a CSS file here, separate file, but this is not a CSS tutorial, so we're just gonna go with inline CSS here. So first of all, I want to change the background color to something off-white, and then I want to change, I'm going to add some padding, 10 pixels, and then I'm going to add some margin, auto, that way it's in the center. I'm going to give it a width of 100%, then tell it to cap that width at max width, 800 pixels. That should do just fine. Okay, so my posts, this one I want to put inside a center tag, that way it's centered. And then I'm going to add another div here. This one will be, actually let's call this one a form. All right, and then let's give a method for our form as post. That's because we are using the post request instead of get request to post here. And I'm going to add a text area over here. This is where we will put our text for our post. We may need a post title here. So this is a type text. The name is title. And we need a name for this one as well, which is the post itself. And then we finally need another input. In this case, just the button. And we're going to call this one save, or you can call it post. Let's add a style. I'm going to add some padding, 10 pixels. Now these guys here, let's add some styling actually, just so we have, I'm gonna say width 100% and some padding of 10 pixels. Let's put a placeholder here as well. Placeholder, we're gonna call this one title. Let's put a placeholder here as well so that users can see what's on your mind, the usual stuff. And of course, let's add a styling as well here. I think it's going to be very similar to this one. So I'm going to copy that and paste it here. Very, very cool. Now let me add a break tag over here, just so there's space between these guys. And then finally, let me add a div that contains my posts in here. And here I'm gonna put an HR tag, just so there's a line between these. I can add styles with this and say margin 10 pixels, and let's change its opacity to be slightly transparent, like this. And then in here, I'm gonna have a div. This one will have a post. Now, since these are gonna be added in code, it's better we give them a class that we can add here with styles. So I'm going to put style tag there, so we can add some styling dot card like this. And let's see what a card would have. So this one would be, I know the width would be 100%, but let's say margin top could be 4 pixels. And let's try margin bottom. Could be 4 pixels as well. And maybe let's add a border. Solid, thin. Let's make it slightly darker than the EEE, so it's going to be D. Like that. Let's add some padding in there as well. I don't know, maybe 5 pixels or something. Okay, here we're gonna put a title, so it's gonna be maybe H4. This one is the post title, and then let's put a div in there, and this one will be the div, the post itself. So let me just use a placeholder here. Go to the website lorem ipsum and grab some text from here. Any text will do. We just want to see something that resembles a post of some kind. So paste like that. Let's go to the end. I'm going to add a div over here. Let's add some styles here. Let's change the background color to something darker, much darker. 606, and the color should be white. Let's add some padding of 10 pixels. Great. Then here we're gonna say something like a date, like 21st January 2023 or something. And let's put some time here as well. It's gonna put a pipe and put 12:45 a.m. or something like that. Now, of course, this I want to put inside a small tag so that it looks much smaller, like so. Okay, great. So we've done all of this. Let's see how it looks in the actual post thingy. And there we are. Something at least, yeah? So let's fix a few things. Let's start with the font size, right? So here I'm just gonna put something on body and say font family. Let's use Tahoma, and then font size. Let's put that at 14 pixels. Maybe we do, is it line spacing or character spacing? Is there such a thing? Maybe that's a bit much. I'm gonna leave that to you. Now we have these guys going all the way outside this content. That's because the paddings and the margins and stuff are adding to everything here. So what we're going to do is just put the star to get everything, to grab every item in here, and just say box sizing. Let's change that to border box. This ensures that it takes into account the padding and so on when determining the width and height. So as you can see now, everything seems to fit better. So the post is right here. This is post number 1. There's post title here, but this is not looking too good. Let me edit a few things. So the card itself, let me add a deeper background color of DDD, maybe instead of a border. And let's come down here as well, and within these guys I can add a margin top of 10 pixels. That way there's a separate thingy going on there. Let's see how that works. Alright, so at least maybe looking like a post of some kind. Maybe not so great, but the idea here is not to do very good perfect CSS. It's just to see the actual PHP part of this tutorial. So let me add a margin here as well. Actually, okay, margin top 10 pixels. Let's try margin bottom as well, 10 pixels. Let's add that background color as well of DDD. That way that will do some wonders. Alright, let's add some padding as well. Padding 10 pixels. This one within the center tag, I'm going to add an H1 tag and close it. Alright, so refresh, and there we go. So my posts, and here you type a post title, what's on your mind, and hit save. Alright, and then the posts will begin to appear down here, which is great. So let me duplicate this. This is one card, one post card. If I duplicate it a few times, it's going to show us how the posts will look like when we indeed have several of these posts. So a post title and some text and so on and so forth. Okay, so really what we want is to see how long, how we can have posts disappear after a while. Now, usually the problem is, because PHP is event driven, and that event is driven by a user click or user activity. So the question becomes, how can PHP delete a post when a certain amount of time has elapsed, even though there's nobody clicking on the website itself? Now, the short answer is this is not possible. However, you can do this using JavaScript. If you have, because JavaScript can have a timer, so you can have a computer that's open and will always access your website and do some work in the background after every few number of minutes or something like that. So which means that computer needs to be on all the time, and it can make a request, an AJAX request to your website automatically without you, and then delete some posts there. But this is very expensive because you need a computer that's active all the time, and if for some reason the computer doesn't work, then you don't get your posts deleted and your site doesn't work. And on top of that, it's costly to having to make requests every few minutes. What if your server is down or your computer cannot access your website at that time? Then you have problems. So instead, we're going to cheat in here. What we do is this: we have the website just calculate how much time has passed since the post was created, just at that time you're trying to access the post. And if the given time has elapsed, then we don't show that post at all. So it's a cheat, and it's much cheaper to do because it only works when somebody accesses your website. So let's add some PHP code here. Make sure that PHP opening tag is right snug at the beginning there. No space, nothing. All right, great. So let's set our time. How much time do we want? We're going to call it max time. And this one, you can put it in whatever units that you want. In this case, maybe let's say, usually it's a 24-hour period. So say 24, which is hours. So in hours, it doesn't matter. The base time is in seconds actually. So we'll just use 24 for human readable time here in hours, but the base time is in seconds. So we're going to be using seconds as the unit time, but we'll multiply as needed to get how many seconds are inside 24-hour period. So you can do the same thing if you want to, let's say, have it a post stay for 25 minutes. So you just multiply by how many minutes or how many seconds are in a minute and how many seconds are in 25 minutes, something like that. So just a matter of calculating the time like that. Now the first thing we want to do is be able to post some posts, right? So here we just need to check if something was posted, and we can do that using the request method. So let's just check the request method inside our server variable there. So if the request method is equal to post, which means something was posted, and then we can continue. You can also use just the count of the post like that. If you find that count post is greater than 0, then something was posted. This is supposed to be count, sorry. So if this can replace that. So if it's a post request, right, we say something was posted. Let's save to our database, right? So we need to make a connection to our database, which is very simple to do. A connection, we're going to do con is equal to, and let's do MySQLi connect. Simple as that. And then when connecting, we just tell it the host name. So localhost is our host name, and the username is root, and our password is empty string, like that. So let's put an if statement instead. I'm gonna do if con. If not, actually, let's put an exclamation point there. Then we're gonna exit if it doesn't make a connection. Otherwise, we go ahead, could not connect. Okay, so if we pass through this point, it means we have connected. So now let's actually save the post. So we expect there will be the post itself will be inside the post variable, and that will be post. Now the reason it's post in there is because that's a name we've given our, where is that? The text area is named post, this one is named title. So those are the things we are grabbing. So I'm going to grab the title and the post. So it's going to be like this, title and post. Now we always should never trust user input at all. So let's use my SQLi real escape string. Yeah, quite a long name for a function. Let's put the connection there, comma, plus the variable you want to clean up. So we're cleaning these variables to make sure they don't have characters that will cause problems when we are trying to save to the database, or we could be hacked. So we have our title, we have our post, but what about the date? So the date here will save as an integer, and we get it by just saying time like that. It will give us the number of seconds since 1970 to the time the post was posted. So that's a lot of seconds, but we're going to save it in the database. That's what we're going to use to determine what to read. Okay, so with all that, we can now do my SQLi query. Like that to run the query. So we will create a query. Let's just put it there. So the query is equal to, since we're not expecting any results, we're not going to capture anything there. We're going to say insert into posts. Insert into posts. Here you put the column names and the values later. So the column names are, we want to put the title, we want to put the post, we want to put the date. So we're going to copy all of this and put actual variables over here. So I'm just going to convert this to variables by putting a $, and then I will put some quotes around them like this. So that's how you insert data. Okay, so with that, it is done, right? Then at the same time, we want to read from the database, right? Let's read from the database to see if to read the posts from there. Now, since we are reading and we're using the connection, let's put the connection outside the post thingy here so that at any moment we are connected to the database. So down here we say read posts. So reading posts is a trivial job to do. We're just going to say select all from posts table, and that's it, really. We're not doing any pagination, we're not doing any where clause to determine which ones to get. So here what I'm going to do is say result is equal to MySQLi query. Yeah, so let's run that query. Great. Actually, to run a query we need the connection, so I'm gonna put con there, comma, like that. Okay, and then if a result was returned, in this case, in fact, let's just ask if MySQLi num rows result, like that, is greater than 0. So here we're asking the question, is there a result that's greater than 0? So which means a result was acquired. Let's use a while clause here to grab each row. So I'm going to say row is equal to MySQLi fetch. So we're going to fetch an associative array from that result, right? Like so. And then through every loop, I want to save the data to, I'm going to create an array here called rows. Let's set it to an empty array. And then here I'm just going to add each row to rows. So rows, add, concatenate the current row like that. Okay, great. This is good. Now, if we have rows here, that's going to be great. If it's not empty, then we can display content down here. So at this point, we have one card here that's a user, single user card. We don't need the rest, we just need one. So what I'm going to do here is to do some PHP templating. So I'm going to say if not empty rows, right? If rows is not empty, full colon, close that. For every if statement, we need an end if. So I'm going to say end if, close that. Let's move things over. And then let's do a loop if everything went well. If it's not empty, here I'll duplicate that and put an else statement here. Make sure you put that full colon afterwards. And then we can put a div here and say no records found. Okay. But if records were found, we change this to a for each loop. We're going to say end for each here as well. And then instead of checking if it's empty, we already did that. We're going to say rows as single row. Okay, so we loop through here, and then row will contain stuff like the title. So more templating, we're going to replace the PHP echo with just an equal sign here and do that, row, and get the title like that and close that. And then the same can be done for our actual post. Let's paste that. Now, for security reasons, you should never paste these things as they are. You use HTML, special chars function. This one will ensure that all dangerous values, even from your own database, are escaped properly. So this one is post, not title. And then here we're gonna have one for the date. Now since this saves an integer, you don't really need to put HTML special chars. So I'm gonna say date right there. Very, very cool. I think this does it. Let's give it a shot. So if I refresh now, MySQLi SQL exception, no database selected. Okay, so this is my bad. I did not select a database. So here after the password, you can add a database. Or if you don't want to connect with a database, you can simply run a query after connecting, and the query would be use whatever database you want to use. But I think it's just easier to put the database here, time posts underscore db. Okay, so there we are. We have a selected database, and there we go. So my posts, if I click save, here it could actually save an empty post, but we don't want that. So what we're gonna do is say, actually we all know how to how to check this, but if the title is empty, actually let's not go down that path, we're gonna waste time. So what I'm gonna do instead, on the input here, I'm just gonna put required, same as here, required, save. This way, at least, if I refresh and try to save, it will tell me, please fill out this. Okay, so we're gonna say my post title, and here we're gonna say, instead of some content, let's just copy from here and paste. Then let's hit the save button right there. So I'm gonna hit save. As you can see right away, I have a post down here. So I'm gonna put another post and put some more lorem ipsum down here, and let's copy that, let's paste and hit save. There we go. So as you can see, the posts are coming one after another, but the newer posts should come on top. So let's change the order type in our query. We can update our query. Instead of just saying selector from posts, we can say order by the column name, which is ID, and what order do we want, descending. So you can put any column name here, or you can use ascending there, depending on the order that you want. So you see here, we're going to swap. Another post will come to the top. Now we keep having this problem where if I want to refresh a page, it asks me to resend the data. So that's never good. So instead, this happens because we posted something. So if I post something and try to refresh the page, it asks me if I want to post that thing again. So we don't want that behavior. So to fix that behavior, we just need to redirect our everything. So we redirect by changing the header information. So we're going to say location, full colon, space, and let's redirect back to our index.php, which is exactly the page we are on. Put die there to make sure that it doesn't continue processing once it gets there. So let's give it another shot. So say third post. Let's post some content there, and let's hit save. Okay, so now we've done that. Let's try and refresh. We are not asked to resend the data. So everything is working fine here. Just one more detail. Here I want to convert that into an actual date that looks like a date, because right now it's just saving an integer, right? If we go to our table and browse this time, we'll see some content saved, and the date is just an int, which is right there. So that doesn't look very human readable, but we can fix that in a second. Let's go down here. So right here where there's date, we're gonna use the date function instead. Yeah, open and close bracket. That way we can tell it to describe our date in a very specific way. Let's put a comma there. Now within this format, we have to tell it what format. We're gonna put small letter J, capital S, and then we're gonna put capital let's put F there, capital F and comma, and then capital Y. So those are formats you can use. If you want to read more about that, just go to php.net and read about the date function. So there we go. You see, we have the date. Now, if you want some time, you can put, let's put a pipe there. So hour is H, capital H, full colon to separate the two. Let's put small letter s for minute and small letter I for seconds. And if you want to know whether it's AM or PM, let's put an A there. Okay, so let's refresh, and there we go. So we have the date and the time saved within. So this very integer you see here, it contains all that information. It contains the actual date and the time that this post was created. But it's convenient because we can use it to run our query much easier. Okay, so we are at the point where we can determine what to do. So now I want to show only posts. Like I said, instead of deleting the posts or making them disappear permanently, we're going to cheat and just hide them, or just show the posts that haven't been around for 24 hours. Now, of course, we can't wait 24 hours, so we're going to use minutes here instead of hours, but the principle still applies. So the first thing we want to do is determine the time we need. So let's go up here. Now, instead of just putting that, I'm gonna say, let's do, so we need to, because we are dealing with hours here, this is 24 hours, right? So we just need to know what the unit time is. So how many seconds are in an hour? So if you want to deal with minutes, you're going to look at how many seconds are in a minute. And if you're looking at days, you're going to look at how many seconds are in a single day. Then you multiply by the number that is required. So in this case, I want us to deal with minutes. So anything that's a minute old should disappear. Okay. Now, for us to know here, let's see. Let's put post IDs as well. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this. Here I'm going to put an H2 and just say post ID, and here we're going to put the ID. We don't need HTML special chars, but for laziness I will leave it there. Okay, so we have post ID there. Wait a minute, this is weird. All right. Okay, so we have a post ID there. That's 1, 2, and 3, right? So this one is older than the rest. So this is definitely a minute, at least a minute old. So actually more than 5 minutes old. So let's try this and see what can happen. So if we're dealing with minutes, here I'm going to say, let me mute this for now. So we're going to say max time is equal to, so there's 60 seconds make a minute because our base unit is seconds. So 60 seconds make 1 minute. So that's all we need. We just need a 60, that's 1 minute, and we multiply by 5. So this is 5 minutes, right? So that's 5 minutes there. So as long as you just change that number, you can put 30 minutes, you can put 60 minutes, which is 1 hour. And if you go to hours instead, you're going to do 60. Let me do this. I'm going to leave some of these for you guys to tinker with. So this one is 60 times 60 times 5. This is 5 hours. Okay. So that's 5 hours right there. Let me move this up, and I'm gonna leave this one here. And for this, we're gonna use 60, which is 1 minute, by 60, which is 1 hour, by 24, which is 24 hours. Okay, so 24 hours there, that's 1 day. So instead we're going to say 5 days, like that. So let's do times 5, like that. Okay, so this is how you can deal with 5 days, 5 hours, and 5 minutes. So that's the max time. So you can choose whichever you want. At least like this, you can decide which of these to use. So of course the last one is the one we are using, unless we mute it. So you can mute the ones you don't want. So here this is the only one that will apply because we are replacing these values here anyway. So if we have this max time there, right? I'm going to copy that. So if we come to the query now where we are reading, we just want to see posts that match the criteria. So what we want to do is, now remember that this is the number of seconds that are contained in this time. Let's say 5 days. That's how many seconds are contained in 5 days. 5 hours, this is the number of seconds. Now for 5 minutes, this is the number of seconds contained in 5 minutes. So what we want to do now, remember that the time that is saved, the integer that is saved in the database, is not the number of, it's the number of seconds since 1970 till now, till when the post was added. So what we need to do is know what now is. So now is equal to time, because remember, when saving we did the same thing. We saved the now of that time when the post was being created. Now we want to check the now of now, right now when we are reading the post. So the difference between the two is how many seconds have passed. So then we can compare it to the number of seconds we need to have passed. And then if the post is below that, we ignore it. So here we say time passed is equal to the time passed is equal to now plus, okay, so currently where we are now, and actually now is always bigger, so because it's the most recent number, so we're going to say now minus max time, like this. So what we are just simply saying is, from now, let's subtract 5 minutes from now, the current time minus 5 minutes, because we are looking at 5 minutes. And then if a post was posted before, if the time of the post is below that, then we can ignore that post. So time passed, blah 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 blah. So that only posts that have this have an integer that's greater than time passed, or instead of time passed, let's say expires. Let's call it that. It's up to you what you want to call it. So here we can put a where clause. So we can say select all columns from posts where the date is greater. So the date must be greater than expires. Now expires is an integer, so we don't really need to put quotes, but just to be thorough, you can put quotes there. Simple and straightforward. So let's go back and see what's going to happen. If I refresh, it's been more than 5 minutes and no records were found. Okay, great. Let's try something smaller instead. Let's try 30 minutes, right? Let's try 30 minutes ago. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, so all the posts are back. Very good. So let's keep reducing this to see where we end up. Let's try 20 minutes as the limit. Okay, all are still here. Let's try 15 minutes. Still here. Let's try 10 minutes. So we are somewhere in between. Okay, but let's forget about that because those were posted almost at the same time, so it's going to be hard to finesse that. So I'm going to say newest post and go to this lorem ipsum, just copy some random text, paste there and save. And as you can see, post ID 4 is actually showing because it was posted earlier, most recent right now. So if I put 1 minute like this, right, just 1 minute, let's try and refresh. So it's still valid because this post is still not 1 minute old. So if we keep refreshing, at some point we will see that it will disappear. Now, while we're waiting for that, we can do another newer post, which will be post ID 5, right? Let me go back to lorem ipsum here, copy that and paste here, and you will see that at some point post ID 4 will disappear. There's 5 here, but 4 is still alive. Let's see here, refresh. Now it's gone. You see, we only have post ID 5. So this is how you can achieve the same thing even with messages and stuff. Now if you're saying, I really want to delete these posts, instead of just hiding them like this or not showing them, I really want them gone. So in that case, what you can do, you can use exactly this, okay, and do the opposite. So as you can see here, if I change this greater than or less than sign, then I will show every post that is older than 1 minute. This one is post 5. It's the only one showing, but if I refresh, every other post will show except that one, because these are all the posts that are older than 1 minute. So which means these are the posts I don't need. So I can easily eliminate these if I wanted to. Now post 5 is there now because it has surpassed the 1 minute mark at this point. So we could easily change that to 2 minutes, maybe, let's say, and then that will eliminate it. So as I've said, if you want to deal with 24 hours, this one is in hours, so grab that one and put it here instead, and then put the number of hours you want, like maybe 24 hours, and then it means all the posts will show. Actually, because we are showing the opposite here, sorry about that, let me go back here and change this. It should be like this. I was just showing you that if you want the opposite posts, you just need to swap that sign there. So if I do that, every post will show because none of them is 24 hours old yet. All right, so let's get back to minutes. So here, that's just 2 minutes, so let's put it at 5 minutes or something like that, and let's check it out. And only 2 posts are not older than 5 minutes. So if you want to delete the others, let me go back to my database here. Let's check it out and see what posts we have. And there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts in there. Here only 2 are showing, right? So how can we delete the others? So to delete is very simple. Let's run a query here. Very simple. So read posts, but first let's delete the ones we don't need. Delete posts. Right? Simple as that. So let's run a query. We will use exactly the same where clause. Let's just flip the sign. Now, of course, we are using expires here, so which means we need to have it created before we can attempt this. So let's move that to the top. Now here we're going to say delete from posts. So delete from posts where date expires, blah, blah, blah. We don't need to capture the result here. We just need to run the query, and that's it. Now, before I run this query, I'm going to mute it for now just to see which posts are showing. So this 5 and 4 are still showing, which means the rest are not needed, but they are still in the database. However, if I let this query run like that, then it will delete all the unwanted ones. So if I refresh like this and come back here and check, you'll see that only 2 posts are left now. No matter how many times I refresh the page, it doesn't delete these guys. It will delete them when their time has elapsed. So if, for example, we're talking about 5 minutes, let's bring it down to 4 minutes, right? And I'm sure maybe they have been up for more than 4 minutes, and now every post is gone, as you can see right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is how you can make disappearing posts in PHP. All right,